weekly breakdown of every NASCAR Cup Series race. Here are your hosts, Kevin Batstone, NASCAR Sky, and Jeff Davis.
Welcome back, race fans, to another episode of Mash the Gas podcast. I'm Jeff Davis, and joining me shortly, Miss NASCAR Sky and Kevin Batstone. We are here to cover the Autódromo Hermanos Rodríguez from Mexico City. Man, it was quite a race. Kevin, who mashed the gas this time?
Well, I finally got one of my Mash the Gas picks correct. I know one of us were going to choose him, of course, but SVG led 60 laps, getting this thing done, wet tires, dry tires, playing the strategy. And oh, by the way, I think he might have drank the water down there in Mexico because he was pretty ill when we were getting ready to roll these cars out of the grid. He was late to the driver's meeting, was late to get into his car. I didn't even know if he was going to start, so he toughed it out. That's brutal. Fortunately it wasn't too hot because racing, when you're under the weather is not an easy task, but boy, you sure wouldn't know it with some of the stats that he put up. 60 laps led, finished 16 seconds ahead of Christopher Bell, just complete domination, big win. Welcome to the playoffs, SVG.
Welcome to the playoffs, but that opens up the whole can of worms where, NASCAR Twitter is very unhappy right now with that, similar to how they felt last year with Harrison Burton. But, we all knew that he was going to dominate one way or another. We kind of knew that he was probably going to win and lock himself into the playoffs at some point on a road course. But, I could even say you could argue that Kyle Larson mashed the gas the hardest because I love that mentality of get back out there and, even though he was, I don't even know how many laps down he was at the end there, but he still got the extra point with the fastest lap. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool. I love Kyle Larson. We know that. Just seeing him get the fastest lap, even though he got his teeth kicked in a little bit early there. But yeah, you're kind of right. It's about like SVG. I really like the guy. He's got a great attitude. He's always smiling. I love his personality. I think he's great for the sport. But like you're talking with the playoff format it is these days. He started in 33rd spot as far as the playoffs go right now, and now he's all of a sudden he is in the playoffs. So starting in P33 and being able to in the top 10 now, it's quite the conversation that we're going to be having in the future about this playoff format.
Well, we had it last year with Harrison Burton winning Daytona and going from 34th in points to into the playoffs to eliminated in the first round. I think his package on the ovals are getting a little bit better. I think Trackhouse, we've obviously seen Ross Chastain. We've seen these guys, Daniel Suarez. These guys have speed. So for SVG, I think you got the monkey off your back. You've got Watkins Glen. We've got Sonoma. We've got Chicago coming up. Multiple opportunities for more stage points, bettering your position. Everyone knows SVG is just a beast on these road courses. It's unmatched. His talent, his skill, and his ability, as long as nothing goes wrong on pit road, these guys are in it. And, difficult strategy to call. We took one lap under green and it just started downpouring. Reminded me of Chicago a little bit. These guys were slipping and sliding around. Old Kyle Busch just drove it in there too hard and had to back it around, wiped a bunch of guys out. Chaos from the get. But all in all, I think that Mexico City was a huge success. I love the stadium quarter. How cool is that to watch these guys racing underneath the grandstand? So just a lot of cool things that happened, I think, for the sport of NASCAR this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely love the racing. I love the track, and just seeing the fan interaction, I think, was probably the best part. Especially over on social media, there was fans saying that, that they've been, a fan of Kyle. And the one guy was a Kyle Busch fan. He said he's been a fan for 11 years, and it's the first time he's ever got to see him. So I thought stuff like that was really cool, and that kind of is like what it's all about at the end of the day. So I definitely love that. I would love to see it expand more in the future, but I love the track. I had a really good time watching it. There's not a lot of times where I can watch, lap after lap of a race, like not look at my phone or anything. And that race, you couldn't look away for 1 second because there was just so much going on. It was hard to keep track of most of the time.
Yeah, it was a really good venue, and I really liked the race itself. Going into turns 1, 2, and 3 right there, every restart, these guys are like 3 wide. We saw a lot of trading paint there, a lot of bumping and grinding. There was a point even I think it was old Junior brought up, he's like, these guys they're just bumper carring it. And they were. This was a fun race to watch. And that venue's great. And I'm really surprised we didn't see more mechanical errors or failures on the cars, being above 7,000 feet. That's quite the elevation. When SVG said, he was sick beforehand, I was thinking, maybe he had altitude sickness. But then hearing his comments after the race, we know it definitely was not that. So, yeah, Kevin, I think you're right there. He probably did drink the water. But as far as, like I said, the tracks that are coming up, SVG is going to do killer at Chicago, Sonoma, Watkins Glen, and all 3 of these are up in the next, month and a half to 2 months. So, Shane Van Gisbergen, If he can get his oval package down, I think he will do really well. So we'll just have to see what he can do.
Well, it's really going to come down to as the playoffs fall. I mean, surviving that first round, getting to the Roval. If SVG is still alive when we get to the Roval, there's a good chance that he can make the round of 8. But, I don't want to say that he's completely out of the conversation. I mean, obviously sitting in where he is in points is not great, but we have to remember he's been caught up in a lot of wrecks this year, a couple big ones on the super speedways, a couple mechanical issues, and not everything here has been SVG's fault. I mean, we've seen him show some speed on the ovals, but we got to give credit when credit's due, and leading 60 laps here at this racetrack. I mean, just incredible from practice one. I love the fact that NASCAR gave them 2 practice sessions to really dial this in. New racetrack. We saw guys way overcook in turn 1, second longest straightaway in NASCAR. I mean, they are hauling the mail going down that straightaway. And obviously, we saw what happened with Kyle Busch on a wet racetrack. But how about that call by Chris Buescher and Austin Cindric to stay on those slicks while it was just dumping rain? I mean, unbelievable. Those guys were able to control it.
Yeah, Cindric almost didn't control it there. I was afraid he was going to slide into the mess when he was zipping through. It was definitely interesting, and I don't know. I didn't know how much it helped paid off there at the end, but I'm glad that they definitely didn't get caught up and make it even worse. But my pick last week, I picked Chase Elliott, and I was actually really surprised with him. I mean, he finished P3. I definitely think he could have finished P2. I mean, he was putting up SVG numbers for a long time there. I think he played it safe there at the end, him and the 48. The 48 got out of the way because the 9 was just better. But it was good to see Chase Elliott get a good day, and hopefully, I mean, we're mentioning SVG with all these road courses, but Chase has done good, both times this year. So hopefully the next few weeks here, he can definitely get a win there.
Yeah, and like you mentioned with Chase Elliott getting P3, it was kind of interesting. Last time SVG won, which is the Chicago debut of the street course, Chase Elliott finished P3 in that race as well. But he's starting to show some speed, and like you're saying, it was cool that Alex Bowman got out of the way. He just didn't want to get wrecked. I think he did the same thing for Christopher Bell. He knew C-Bell had a faster car on him. He's like, I need these playoff points. I don't need to get wrecked. I don't need to hold anyone up. Let's just get a good top 5 finish. So I think Alex Bowman made some really smart decisions there. I'm sure that everyone on the crew, they helped him out an awful lot. So yeah, it was really cool to see Chase Elliott get up there again, getting that P3. But I'll tell you who I was really kind of interested in was we haven't talked a whole lot about Tai Gibbs other than what has gone wrong for him throughout his career so far. For him to be able to lead second most in laps with 27 laps, I mean, he was hauling ass there for the good chunk of the race. And I was really surprised to see him holding on to it. Didn't quite get the finish that he wanted to, but I still think he did a really good job in this race.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Jeff. And that's why I took him on my fantasy lineup. He looked good in practice, definitely had a lot of speed and was able to go out there and run door to door with SVG. And I just think those guys were trying to do what SVG wasn't. Because at that point, the only way you're going to beat him is on pit strategy. We had some guys short pitting it before the stage end, trying to split it. Michael McDowell was on it. Everybody was trying to get off of a strategy in case we got a late race yellow, or one of those scenarios played out. But, I'm just surprised that Tyler Reddick wasn't more in this conversation at all this weekend. I mean, very mediocre day, finished P20, really didn't have speed in practice. So 23XI just really wasn't a factor this weekend. And then how about old Daniel Suarez? I mean, he goes out and wins that Xfinity race in incredible fashion for Junior Motorsports. That's exciting. Goes out there and leads 19 laps, right? And finally gets a win in his home race. Now, there was a lot of hoopla on social media. I'm sure, Sky, you caught some of it. People were saying, oh, NASCAR rigged this for Suarez. And they were telling the crew chief, don't race him super hard. All I saw was good hard racing. Daniel Suarez went out there and earned that win.
Yeah, I think people really underestimate passion and emotion sometimes, and that alone, fuel like that, being your home track, being the first time that you're there or, there with NASCAR is just like there's so much emotion. It can make him do just crazy things. So it doesn't surprise me that he went out and won, and he did take the lead, for like a little bit there on Sunday, not too long. I know that the crowd kind of went crazy for that, but it was such a good, I don't know. I really enjoyed the race on Saturday. Everyone on social media, all the conspiracy theorists, it's just sad that it is that way, Can't let them enjoy the win. But like I said, I really enjoyed the track. The restarts at the third stage, I mean, that was, I don't know. Like I said, how I said earlier, there was so much going on. It was hard to even follow one storyline because people were getting turned. I mean, at one point, Ryan Truex got like turned around and then re-turned around and kept going straight. I don't even know how he managed that.
Yeah, the track layout was really cool. I really enjoyed it as well. I mean, that front grandstand and being able to, the track actually going underneath of it. I thought it was super cool the way they have that laid out. It's the first time I've seen a race ran there. But you're right, Sky. It was mayhem. I mean, we saw where the three got spun, the 21 wrecked into the three. Joey got almost caught up in that. He was right ahead of it, but it was just mayhem. I mean, the end of stage three was crazy. I loved it. And Daniel Suarez, yeah, I think there are a lot of people, there's a lot of naysayers and haters out there, those keyboard warriors on social media they just want to talk shit. That's all they want to do. It's like, you can't see me, hey, haha. But being able to come in the backup car, it was a really damn good car too, with running the 9 car for Junior Motorsports. Really kicked ass. And to see him go all the way to the front, and like you said, that emotion and the passion that he had for being in his hometown in Mexico, or not his hometown, but his home country, you know what I mean? But to see him come down there with that passion and be able to work his way up to the front and win, I think was really solid. So congratulations to Daniel Suarez.
I think we really got to give a shout out to Legacy Motorsports. I mean, they've been doing a lot better in recent weeks. I was looking at Eric Jones' stats. I mean, he finished 17th. He ran well yesterday. He was also kind of going crazy there for a little bit and felt like he was almost running into everybody. But I guess everyone was in a way. But I mean, besides Kansas, I mean, the 43's been running really, really well. And John Hunter Nemechek, actually, he finished I don't know, I think in the top 10. It is the 5th time that he's done that. It's the most he's done it in any season. So they're figuring something out over there. So hopefully, next time Jimmy Jam's, down racing, hopefully that means that, they got something figured out and he can run a lot better. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think, I talked about this a lot last year with them going to Toyota, being a Chevy alliance for so long. I think anytime we see new manufacturers come in, it's such a learning curve. Whether you're 23XI or your startup or your guy that's been in the game a long time, switching your whole organization over, we saw it with Spire as well, some changes there when Kyle Busch, KBM went from, the Chevy alliance over to, or Toyota over to Chevy, I should say. Anytime we see that, I feel like there's some growing pains there. But I think Legacy Motor Club, you highlighted a couple of things that are starting to head in the right direction. And I really didn't have John Hunter Nemechek pegged as a road course guy, let alone finishing P6. So that's good momentum for those guys to build off of for sure. And you mentioned those beating and banging around there. Of course, we saw old Hocevar. It wouldn't be a week of NASCAR podcasting if we didn't call out the 77. Running over old Ricky Stenhouse once again, takes him out in the stadium corner, just wiped him out clean. I'm sure you guys saw the replay, just mashed the gas right through him. And, Ricky's just about had enough. And he said, when we get back to the States, I'm going to beat your ass.
Yeah, that was kind of a tough situation because he was a lap down, or maybe even two. I think he was only one lap down. The 77 was. So to get in the back of old Ricky just wasn't a good thing. And yeah, I did hear the audit or the edited version basically of his comments when he got in his car and he did that. He said he's going to beat his ass. He's sick of it. He's tired of him. Interesting. I think if he wouldn't have been a lap down and not spun Ricky, it might have been a different conversation, but he shouldn't have been there at all.
I don't think that he intentionally wrecked the 47. I think he was just being dumb. But as soon as it was the 47, I was like, oh, he's in for it for sure. And I don't blame Ricky Stenhouse at all for being upset. I'm fully on his side now. I do think that maybe he just needs punched in the face one time, one good one from Ricky, and hopefully he'll get his head on straight. We'll see how that goes. But I mean, the 77 just had a bad day all around. He was also the caution that kind of screwed Tai Gibbs' day at the end there. I remember watching, it was the lap right before the caution. I was like, oh, I was so anxious. I was like, Tai Gibbs, you got to pit now. Like, I just had a feeling. And immediately the next lap, that caution came out, which was really unfortunate for the 54 because he was having such a good day. And then he kind of got stuck back, him and Chase Elliott. But Chase Elliott, he kind of fired off better and he got, up to P3. But the 54, he just couldn't compete at that point.
Yeah, the 54 was just kind of stalled out in traffic, it seemed like. You get him out front in clean air, and he was good to go. And, speaking of that air, that thin air up there, we really played into the way the draft almost was non-existent. We heard Steve Letarte kind of break it down a little bit going down the front straightaway. Normally, we would see guys close in, as we'll see in Pocono this weekend when we go to NASCAR's longest straightaway. You'll really see guys pulling on that air. With that thin air up there, 22% less oxygen, the draft was just not a factor at all. It was just pure, cool, keep your brakes cool, keep your head straight, and drive the racetrack. And obviously Shane Van Gisbergen continued to pull away. Crew chief comes on and goes, hey, man, back it up. We don't want to make a mistake here. He goes, I'm good. We got this.
Yeah, and I also liked when his crew chief was telling him, to keep those tires in good shape. He had such a lead, and the track started to dry off. He was still on the wet tires. And you could see him actually getting off of the dry into the wet a little bit so he could keep those tires cool because he wanted to stay out there and keep that lead. To SVG, he did a damn good job. I mean, he's great at the road courses, like we were talking about. In Indy or what's that? 2023, he took the Indy road course, got a 10th place finish there. Watkins Glen, he got a 2nd place there last year. So I think he's got a lot of potential. We just need to see again. We need to see what it can do with the ovals. Pocono, not an oval, but he can do good there as long as he gets some speed. I think if he gets some speed underneath of him there, he'll do a damn good job. But like you're mentioning, Kevin, that altitude, you just can't draft. There's no downforce. I'm surprised we didn't see more brake failures. The cooling system's not working as well. But overall, these cars held up really, really well for what they were given. Because these guys aren't used to it. I mean, even Ross Chastain was saying before the race, he's like, man, I'm tired. I am winded. I'm not used to this. The altitude is definitely affecting these guys.
People definitely underestimate altitude. We see it all the time here where I live in Denver, Colorado. People come out and like, man, I just don't feel good. The altitude will get you if you're not prepared for it. And, we talked last week how some of the crew guys were up there in Aspen, Colorado trying to acclimate. But, man, how about some of the travel discrepancies? I mean, SVG's crew barely made it, right? They were down a man. Obviously Denny Hamlin, congrats. He now has a baby boy. So he sat out this race and old Truex filled in for him. But a lot of travel discrepancies, I feel like, getting across the border, getting through customs. There was a plane with an engine that went down, just a lot of things that made it difficult for these guys to make it in time. And I wonder if they're going to adjust anything, if we come back next year. I'm going to go ahead and say we do. I think it was a pretty good success. I mean, that place holds over 110,000 spectators. I would be willing to say we'll be back there next year. And hopefully they learn some things, and can improve on. Obviously, the haulers made it there. Jeff, you and I were talking about some of the security that went into that with the Mexican policia, driving
Crazy.
down the road. I mean, those guys were heavily armed, bringing these guys in, just kind of a little bit of a reality check, that you're not in America, when you're down there. I've been to Mexico and things are just a little bit different, but I'm glad everything went well. Everyone was safe, smooth, and we got out of there in one piece.
Yeah, there was a lot of money that went into this. So I am going to be interested as much as I enjoyed the race. And I don't know if, I know they're not committing to it for next year yet. We'll have to see. But I was looking at a couple of some statistics that were popping up at me as far as like the haulers between the Xfinity Series trucks and the NASCAR Cup Series trucks, the broadcast trucks, NASCAR's own trucks, even like, Goodyear tires takes 10 semis to haul down all those tires for all these teams. That they had to use 132 different haulers just to get down there to Mexico City for the weekend. And if you combine the mileage from, the NASCAR Cup Series, obviously we were in Michigan, that's 42 hours of driving. That's 2,296 miles per truck. And then the Xfinity Series is in Charlotte, which is another like 39-hour drive. So 2,011 miles there. So if you calculated it all, they said that the combined mileage for all these haulers, I just laugh, man, 293,452 combined miles. That's a lot of fuel to be spent. That's a lot of money these teams are putting out. Because NASCAR isn't paying for all these teams to get their haulers down there, and probably not some of that added security that we were seeing on a lot of social media. So I think there was so much money put into this that it might be a tough sell for some of the teams. I don't know what they feel about it or not. But if we want to talk about money again, let's go back to 23XI and Front Row Motorsports and them having the legal issue with NASCAR. And if they don't become a charter team, they could lose out on 10 to 15 million of funding every year that comes from NASCAR. So again, I think it's going to be a dollar issue versus it is just, having another race down in Mexico.
Just from a fan point of view, it was awesome and I love it. But if it's not feasible for these teams, I mean, there's already so much stress, like you were saying, on them anyway. But, I don't want to add any more to them. So that's definitely a really good point. Yeah, overall, man, like I really enjoyed it. We'll have to just see where it goes for next year. A couple drivers actually had some really good days. I know we were mentioning a few, but I also wanted to point out that the 41 Haas factory team, that is the first time they've had a top 10 ever, because they're a brand new team, but this season. So that's really good for Cole Custer and that team. Hopefully, Cole Custer is a pretty decent driver. He was really, really good when he was in Xfinity. I'm pretty sure he won Rookie of the Year, if I remember correctly. So I have a lot of faith in him, and he could probably, make a really good run this year. We'll just see if he can turn that season around now.
Yeah, I mean, again, those guys definitely experiencing growing pains since Tony Stewart pulled out completely, and Now it's basically a standalone organization. But I think Cole Custer is well deserving of that seat. We've seen what he did for Tony Stewart in the Xfinity Series. And so, yeah, good call out there. I would also Michael McDowell, another great performance for those guys. Michael McDowell continues to prove why he's so much in the conversation on road courses, and once again why he went in my lineup. But he kind of slotted right about where I thought he would. I thought maybe a top three finish for him, but he was about fourth, fifth all weekend in speed and in qualifying. So those guys are definitely happy with it. I'm sure picking up some points where they can as the summer goes on. We're going to be battling down to that point line. Every point matters. That's why Kyle Larson went out there and got the Xfinity fastest lap. It's about the only thing that they could get coming out of this weekend. But Jeff, you had mentioned the logistic piece of these guys ripping around. Let's not forget they now have to get back to the States, get all the way to Charlotte, North Carolina, pick up their Pocono race car, and then drive up to Long Pond, PA. So the drive's not over yet.
No, drive's not over. Definitely a different car. A lot of mileage are getting put in. These guys, they put in their time. I think a lot of these drivers and some of the guys behind the scenes, not even just the pit crew and the guys that we see on the track, but all the folks that we see that or we don't see that are off the track. These guys that are doing the hauling and the people that it takes to set up these events. With the broadcasting, it's just not someone out there with the microphone. There's a lot of time and a lot of hours that go in, and a lot of people that kind of get unnoticed. So I thought it was kind of something to bring up, to give them a shout out, because it's really cool that they are the ones that help put these events on and keep us all entertained. But yeah, like you guys are saying, Michael McDowell, he's a great road course driver. Really cool to see the 71 get up there in the P5. Great on the road courses. Had him in my lineup as well. But yeah, Cole Custer, like you said, and Haas, that was really cool. I was stoked out to see that. So I think we're getting close to the playoff standings again, where we're starting to go, okay, this race actually really made a difference. It's SVG just shook it up. I mean, he really, really did. Now we've got Chris Buescher on the cut line with 19 in the positive, and Ryan Preece right below him with 19 in the negative. Michael McDowell, he needs a win, but he's got 43 points below the cut line right now. So with some of the road courses coming up, he could probably get some points in there. But I'll tell you, I was surprised he didn't have a better day. It was old AJ Allmendinger. I just, his name wasn't out there very much. I didn't see a whole lot of him. I thought he was going to do a little bit better than he did.
Well, and he kind of got collected in that mayhem with the Kyle Busch wreck, right when we went on the wet tires, but the damage wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't like what we saw Kyle Larson have to go through, so the 16, just a little bit off the pace. I think it was kind of like a Tai Gibbs situation. AJ is really good if you get him out front on these road courses, but the balance of the race car, everything changes when you got guys around you. Some of those corners are pretty narrow. I mean, at one point we were going 3-4 wide into, the stadium corner there. So, hence why I think Hosvar ended up wiping out Stenhouse. Not intentional, just kind of bonehead move, just overdrove it a little bit. And Hosvar definitely did not make many friends in Mexico City, though. I'll tell you this. I don't know if you guys caught on social media where he had to walk back some comments that he made. He called Mexico City a shithole. And then he ended up having to walk that back going, well, maybe I shouldn't comment that. I've never been out of Michigan before, so he had to walk that back a little bit. So, Hosvar is young. He's learning. He's got a personality. He's going to be a big part of this sport. He kind of reminds me of the new Rowdy a little bit.
Yeah, he does, man. And I'll tell you what, I read something else too. It's like not everyone had the best of time in Mexico, even though it was a really good race. Ricky Stenhouse, we know what his whole situation there was with Hocevar, but his spotter, old Tab Boyd, he took to social media with pretty much a lot of different comments. He literally quoted saying, "I'm ready to go home. Screw this place. People can't take it. They can take it all they want." He said he walked out the front door of the hotel and he got hustled and ripped off. So he basically got mugged. So he did not have a good time in Mexico City, but it was interesting to hear him say that.
Yeah, it's we knew some of this was going to happen when I was down in Mexico. Now, granted, I didn't go to Mexico City, but some similar things took place. Different country, different vibes. I mean, not everybody there is out to rip you off, but we're talking about 22 million people in the Mexico City metropolitan area. It's the second largest city in the Western Hemisphere. I mean, just incredibly massive. So I think the positive takeaway here, Sky, is that we captured a new market, new fan base, and I think that's the big takeaway from the weekend.
I agree. Like I already mentioned it before, but just seeing the fan side of it all, just these fans that have been fans, their entire lives for so many years and haven't ever got to see the Cup Series, to get to have that chance. I mean, that's so special to them, and it just makes me really happy as a fan for them. So I love it. I want to see more of this, all over the world. But though the money thing does, he brought up a really good point with that. I did want to give a shout out though to Hendrick right now, because they are 1, 2, and 4 in the playoff standings right now, which is pretty impressive. Bowman was up there, but he's all the way down to 12th in points now. I guess he's had some bad luck, but William Byron is leading the playoffs right now, which I don't know, it's pretty interesting for them. You got the Bell in the mix there as well. So good job for Hendrick. I mean, we give the nine a lot of slack sometimes. I mean, we're always on him, but I mean, he's fourth right now, so you can't really be too mad at him.
No, he's getting his points up there. You're right. He's definitely adding them up, and that's where a lot of these pit strategies come into play. It's like, okay, do we want playoff points or where do we want to finish? And I think Chase Elliott's doing a damn good job. I just saw this afternoon that he will be pulling a double next weekend at Pocono. He will be racing the 17 car for old Mr. H. And last time anyone was in the 16 or the 17 car, I'm pretty sure it was Kyle Larson and William Byron that were both in it last, and they both won. So, I think old Chase Elliott, hopefully that momentum and that luck carries on for that 17 car in the Xfinity Series next week.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point with Pocono. Anytime we run Pocono after a road course, I feel like some of that experience carries over a little bit. Pocono is very, very difficult. The tunnel turn and kind of getting the car woed up on our longest straightaway. Alex Bowman was talking about his foot, from his previous wreck up there in Michigan, that hard hit, his foot was bothering me, and the amount of brake pressure that it takes, pushing that pedal down puts a lot of wear and tear on his foot. He said it was swelling up and whatnot. So hopefully he's going to be good to go, feeling better for Pocono. But this is a pretty physically demanding racetrack as well. Like I said, you really got to roll the corner. You got to get off. You got to hit your marks coming through the tunnel corner. We typically see some of the road course ringers, like an AJ Allmendinger, a Michael McDowell. We'll see how SVG does. Perform pretty well at Pocono. Demanding racetrack, 400 laps. What turn for? It's the tricky triangle.
Yeah, but you know what? No one holds a flame to Pocono like Denny Hamlin. And, he's coming off of having a week off, and that sitting around after doing this every week for however many years he's been in the Cup Series. I mean, having that week off, he's probably antsy. He's ready to get back at it. I mean, I can't think of a better track for him to come back to for him, honestly. I was looking at the stats, and out of the last 8 years he's won 3 times, which you can even argue fourth, but obviously he got DQ'd back in 2022. So half the time that we're at Pocono, I mean, Denny Hamlin's winning. So it'll be a good track, and I'll have to see how he does when he comes back.
Is that already your pick? Are you making your pick for next week already, Sky?
No, that is not my pick, but it would be a very good pick for sure. A safe bet.
That would be a safe bet. No, those are some good stats to bring up. He's got 57 wins now, so he needs 3 more wins to tie with Kevin Harvick for that 10th spot on the all-time win list. And I think he can do it. I think it's very easy that he can get up there and do it. And like I said, hey, Pocono is a really good track for him. I don't know how much rest he actually got with the newborn there and having their third kid. I'm sure he's a little bit tired trying to help his wife out with, taking care of the infant. But you're right. He's got that energy. He's ready to get back in the car, and he's definitely one to watch out for. Like Kevin was saying, this is our straightaway, 3,740 feet on that long stretch.
Great racetrack. It definitely has a place in Long Pond, PA. The fan base up there is fantastic. They always pack them in, every single time we go there. And when we look at this race a year ago, old Ryan Blaney was able to hold off Denny Hamlin. But, we mentioned how Hamlin had won, numerous times in the last decade. And the times that he didn't win, he was at least, right there in the top 5. So I think that the Penske guys are definitely going to be something to look at as well. We haven't really heard much out of Joey Logano the past few weeks. He had a P5 finish there last year. So I feel like the Penske boys, the Ford should show up. Does Tyler Reddick finally turn it around? I mean, he finished P2 there 2 years ago. Those guys, the 23XI guys, are just a little bit behind, I feel like. And this could be a good opportunity to hopefully straighten their season out. Those guys are going to need a win here for sure. I think Tyler Reddick's probably going to point his way in if he doesn't find victory lane, just like, some of these others that we mentioned. But good chance for these guys to go out and grab a win.
You mentioned how last week the 45 was not really in the picture much, but I feel like that's been the entire season for him. I mean, yeah, you can argue both of them, but I feel like Bubba Wallace has had at least some better luck here and there. He's finished in the top 10 a few times, but I don't know. I'm very, I don't want to say unimpressed with the 45. I just know that he can be a lot better than he is. So hopefully, yeah, maybe both of them can have a good week coming up here in Pocono. I mean, Toyota isn't too bad there, especially we talked about Denny Hamlin. Obviously, Christopher Bell is another good bet. I mean, Bubba finished 10th here last year, so maybe they can get something turned around.
This would be a good track, I think, for Bubba Wallace. Right now he's 57 points in the positive as far as the playoff standings. Tyler Reddick's just happening to get a little more stage wins out there because he's up there 123 points in the positive. So I do think he'll probably point his way in if he doesn't get a win. But you're right. We haven't had a whole lot of talk about old Tyler Reddick in the 45 car. His performance is good. The numbers actually show it, but I think that we've just expected a lot more. I was expecting him to win by now. So it'll be cool if we can see him in there and Chase Elliott so they don't have to worry about points, because that'll really change the points. Could be in that they're the only two that are over 100 in the positive.
Yeah, it's tough to predict Pocono. It really is. I mean, we can go off some of these trends. There's obviously, favors into Denny Hamlin, and you could even argue some of the Toyotas, but maybe we see a breakout win this weekend. Does Tai Gibbs finally, carry some of that laps led momentum over into Pocono, and those guys just need to qualify better, which they did. They qualified great for Mexico City, but if you get the 54 in a better starting position, better pit selection, I think these guys are gonna be more in the conversation. But we look at Chase Briscoe, who's pretty much dominated practice and qualifying for the last 2 months, and those guys just can't seem to get the finish that they need where they started. Plenty of top fives, top tens here and there, but Chase Briscoe, he'll go out there and be fast on Saturday and grab the pole, but man, we just haven't seen these guys close the deal.
Yeah, it's tough, man, because he's pretty close on the points too. He's 39 in the positive right now. But you're right, man. He has been killing it. He's been totally killing it in qualifying and in the practices. So I think he's just having a hard time. I don't know if it's just being around other cars or what, but when he's out there on the track by himself, he knows how to mash the gas. He really does. And I could see him getting a win. This would be a good track for him to get one out there. But I don't know. I might be leaning towards Penske a little bit. I think I will have Hamlin in my lineup. But we actually know who won there last year, and that's probably who Sky's going to take, is the old 12 of Ryan Blaney.
Well, I guess it's that time. Sky, we'll let you lead the way. Who's going to win Pocono this weekend?
Well, I can say that I'm not picking Ryan Blaney, but I was going to pick Denny Hamlin, and then I switched it before we got on because I just had a feeling when I was going through stats, seeing who finished where and who's good here. You know, this is going to be crazy, but I'm going to go with Kyle Busch. I just have a feeling, he was out early at Mexico City. You had all that anticipation, all that, anxious anxiety, just, wanting to go race, and it got cut so short that he's got to let it out somewhere. And he's good at Pocono. I'm not too strong on RCR, but I have a good feeling about Kyle Busch.
Well, I'll tell you who I'm going to go with. I think he's got a little bit of momentum right now, and I know he had a hard time because he was not feeling very good at the race last week or this last weekend in Mexico. But I'm going to go with Alex Bowman. I'm going to take the 48 car.
Yeah, interesting pick there for sure. Well, I mean, as much as I did want to take Denny Hamlin, this will be the second time that I take Ryan Blaney. I think it's finally time. These Penske boys have speed. They've shown it. Blaney's hungry. This is where he gets it done. The 12 car is going to victory lane this Sunday.
Definitely can't go wrong with Ryan Blaney. I'm sure he'll definitely be up there. If he doesn't win, he'll definitely be up there. As long as he can finish, he doesn't get wrecked out or get caught up in somebody else's bad luck, because really that's what happens for him all the time.
So true. Being able to finish these races, stay out of other people's mess. What do we think is going to happen with this Stenhouse-Hocevar deal? Do you think – I just don't see Ricky wiping him out on the racetrack. We call him Wrecky Spinhouse, but those are all usually kind of mistakes. He's not intentionally wrecking guys. But – at this point, maybe, oops, I overdrove turn one and the 77 happened to be there. Maybe we see an old Matt Kenseth to Joey Logano at Martinsville. What do you think, Jeff?
That would be rough. That would be rough. And I think there'd be some pretty heavy penalties, fines, and everything going on there if that did happen. But I think it's going to come around. It's, Ricky, I love him. He does well. I don't think he'll do it maybe this week, but these guys don't forget. If it's not this race, it might even be 2-3 races down the line.
Yeah, I feel like he's probably going to punch him in the face at some point. I think it'll be probably some little incident will happen, whether it's, him bumping into Carson or Carson doing something back to him, but he'll get out on pit road here in a few weeks and he'll probably, swing on him like he did Kyle Busch.
He's definitely not afraid to throw some things around. So we'll see. Hopefully Hosvar tightens up. This is our last race on Prime, guys. I'm kind of bummed. I've really enjoyed the coverage that Prime has brought, from Daniel Trotta and Carl Edwards, and honestly, Corey LaJoie has surprised me. I wasn't the biggest Corey LaJoie guy. Jeff, you and I met him down in Phoenix. But he's really turned my opinion around. He knows the sport. He's committed to it. And I think Prime has well exceeded all of our expectations.
Prime crushed it. They really did. They did it way better than Fox. I loved how they were showing the miles per gallon as far as these guys do it. They're showing pit stop times. They were showing everything that we've called out. They did a damn good job.
I hope Fox takes a look at Prime and sees how they did it and sees all of our reactions and takes some inspiration for next season. And hopefully they could definitely be a lot better. I mean, we just need it to be consistent. We need to be able to have good camera angles. We need you not to sound stupid. That's all we want, Fox.
Yeah, Fox definitely has room to improve. Unfortunately, they have until Daytona to do it because we're going to go to TNT in 2 weeks when we cover the Echo Park Speedway. Still having a hard time adjusting that knowing it is Atlanta, but let's see if I can get this in. This weekend it is the Great American Getaway 400 presented by visitpa.com. That is the sponsor of this race out in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. 160 laps. We're going to let it rip, Tater Chip. I love Pocono. It's the tricky triangle. A lot of challenges there. I think that it's going to be similar to the way road courses play out. I think you're going to have to get pit strategy involved. Will we see the wrecks? Are we going to see the tire failures? Those are all the things, the what if. So I'm excited to get to practice and qualify and see who's got the speed. Any last remarks, guys, before we turn the page?
Yeah, just gotta make sure you keep it clean on pit road. Even though it comes down to pit strategy, you gotta make sure you're not speeding, which they tend to do that a lot. So hopefully that everybody's on their P's and Q's on Sunday for sure.
It's going to be a good race. We'll see if old Chase Elliott can maybe pull off the sweep. That'd be pretty cool. So we'll be back next Monday night to break all the action down from the tricky triangle. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Mash the Gas Across the Board. Follow Sky over there at NASCAR Sky Across the Board. Let's go racing up in Pennsylvania. And until then, Jeff,
Mash the gas.
I feel the engine screaming back. I feel the sweat